The actor Alec Baldwin has described as a tragic accident the fatal shooting he was involved in on a film set. Baldwin fired a prop gun that was supposed to be loaded with blanks but killed one person and injured another. The European Union has accused Belarus of recruiting migrants in the Middle East and pushing them into Europe. EU leaders said they will take further action against Minsk over the issue. Health officials in the UK say a new mutated form of coronavirus that some are calling Delta Plus may spread more easily than regular Delta. The UK Health Security Agency has declared it a variant under investigation. Buckingham Palace has confirmed that Queen Elizabeth spent a night in hospital in London earlier this week after undergoing what are said to be preliminary medical checks.
China says there is no room for compromise on the issue of Taiwan after U.S. President Joe Biden commented on defending Taiwan if it was attacked. In Russia, an explosion killed 16 people at a gunpowder factory in the Ryazan area southeast of Moscow. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention approves a booster shot of COVID-19 vaccines from drug companies Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. And in Japan, the first woman head of Japan's largest labor group says she will work to improve workplace equality for women.
CDC Director Rochelle Walensky has recommended booster shots for the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccines. Shots could be available as early as today. They were authorized by the FDA earlier this week. Walensky also backed mixing vaccines, allowing people to receive a different brand shot than their first. China Evergrande has made an overdue interest payment to international bondholders, Chinese state media reports. The $83.5 million payment saves the real estate giant from what could have been Asia's largest ever corporate default, but it's still on the hook for a separate late payment worth $45 million. The grace period on that bill ends next week. Major tech stocks, including Facebook and Apple, slipped in after-hours trading on news that social media company Snap expects growth to slow. The company seemed to suggest that Apple's new ad policy on digital advertising was to blame. It requires apps to ask users whether they want to be tracked, and that's made it harder for advertisers to target their ads. Such revenues form the bulk of Facebook and Alphabet's advertising business. And in the markets, U.S. futures have stalled following a strong start to trading in Europe and a rather mixed close in Asia.
We start here in Japan, where the government has approved a new plan to combat global warming ahead of the UN Conference on Climate Change later this month. The plan targets achieving carbon neutrality by the year 2050. It also aims to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 by 46% from 2013 levels. It specifies measures aimed at attaining the targets, including using renewable energy as much as possible. Japan plans to submit its long-term strategy for achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 to the UN ahead of the COP26 conference. The UN chief has praised Japan's efforts, but he's calling on the country to do more.
In the past few months, Japan has made an enormous progress, and I hope that this progress will move forward and that the concrete measures taken to implement these commitments will be effective.
The conference will begin on October 31st in Glasgow, Scotland. Participating nations are submitting their climate pledges for discussion. The focus is on whether the global community can agree on measures to effectively tackle global warming. Now to the coronavirus situation in Japan, where local governments are moving to lift their restrictions on bars and restaurants as cases decline nationwide. Kyoto Prefecture in western Japan on Friday lifted its request for shorter opening hours. This bar has reopened after being closed for nearly 6 months. The prefecture has certified it as having effective anti-infection measures in place. The bar's owner is asking customers to wear masks when they're not drinking or eating. He's also asking them to come in small groups of up to 4 people and limit their stays to 2 hours.
I'm relieved to be able to serve alcohol again so that customers can have a good time.
Neighboring Hyogo Prefecture also lifted its restrictions on Friday. Tokyo and Osaka will follow suit next week. Some local governments are conducting a test program to see if eateries can effectively use vaccine certificates. This restaurant in Saitama Prefecture, just north of Tokyo, is taking part in the program. Customers with approved vaccination certificates are guided to special tables. They're allowed to eat and drink with no restrictions on group size or length of stay.
I hope the program will produce data that can be used to find ways to allow people to feel perfectly safe about eating out.
Officials in Tokyo confirmed 26 new cases on Friday, the lowest in over a year. The capital has reported fewer than 50 infections for 6 consecutive days. Now, Britain's Prime Minister says his government will stick to its current plan for managing the pandemic, even as UK daily case numbers top 50,000.
The numbers of infections are high, but we're within the parameters of what the predictions were. So we're sticking with our plan.
Britain's main doctors' union is not persuaded. The British Medical Association has accused Johnson's government of being willfully negligent for not taking further action to curb the spread of infection. It's recommending mandatory mask wearing in high-risk settings, among other measures. Johnson insists the situation is much better now than a year ago, thanks to the vaccine rollout. He's banking on a new booster campaign to blunt calls for a change in COVID-19 strategy. Many are demanding stronger measures. New infections in the UK rose above 50,000 on Thursday for the first time since mid-July. Nearly all restrictions in England have been lifted, and fewer people are wearing masks. Officials say the recent spike in new cases has not resulted in a marked rise in deaths and severe cases. But there are concerns a further spread of infections could put additional strain on the healthcare system. U.S. media say actor Alec Baldwin fired a prop gun on a movie set, killing a cinematographer and injuring the director. Reports say the incident happened on Thursday during the filming of a Western drama in the U.S. state of New Mexico. The local sheriff's office is investigating and interviewing witnesses about the shooting. Baldwin has appeared in films including The Hunt for Red October, released in 1990. More recently, he became known for his impersonations of former U.S. President Donald Trump. The incident has prompted comparisons to the 1993 death of the son of late martial arts star Bruce Lee. Brandon Lee was killed by a prop gun while filming a movie. Members of the United Nations are divided over China's policies in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. On one side are mainly Western countries, on the other are many developing nations. 43 countries, including the United States and Japan, expressed concerns at a UN Human Rights Committee meeting on Thursday. France's UN ambassador read their statement. It cited reports of widespread systematic human rights violations, including torture and violence. It also noted severe restrictions on freedoms of religion and expression. The members called on China to follow international law in protecting human rights. On the other side, Cuba spoke on behalf of 62 nations to defend China. They opposed any interference in its internal affairs. China's UN ambassador said the United States has once again failed in its attempt to defame the country with groundless accusations. U.S. President Joe Biden says his country will defend Taiwan if attacked by China. The comment comes amid rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Biden took questions at a CNN town hall meeting on Thursday. When asked if the U.S. would defend Taiwan, Biden responded, Washington has a commitment to do that. Washington has no official diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but sells weapons to it under the Taiwan Relations Act. At the same time, it's long recognized Beijing's One China policy. Now, it's not the first time Biden has mentioned Taiwan's defense. In August, he said the U.S. had made a sacred commitment to defend allies, including Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. A White House spokesperson downplayed Biden's latest comment, saying it did not indicate a change in policy or the status quo. China has hit back at Biden's remark.
We urge the U.S. to fully respect the One China principle, refrain from commenting on the Taiwan issue, and not undermine China-U.S. relations or the peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
In other news, defense officials here in Japan say 2 helicopters took off from Chinese and Russian naval fleets cruising near Japanese waters. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force spotted 1 Chinese and 1 Russian helicopter Thursday morning taking off from their frigates in waters 50 to 100 kilometers off the Izu Islands in the Pacific. Air Self-Defense Force fighters were scrambled. Neither the Chinese nor the Russian helicopter intruded into Japanese airspace. China and Russia conducted 4 days of joint naval exercises in the Sea of Japan through Sunday. A total of 10 Chinese and Russian warships passed through the Tsugaru Strait simultaneously on Monday and entered the Pacific. It was the first such transit, Japanese defense officials have confirmed. The Defense Ministry says it'll stay on the alert and analyze the purpose of the joint navigation. Turning now to Myanmar, where a local human rights group says over 100 people have been rearrested soon after being released from prison. It comes as the junta began freeing more than 5,600 civilians in a move seen as a result of international pressure. The Assistance Association of Political Prisoners says 110 people were arrested some hours after they met with their families or even at prison gates. It says this is a form of physical and mental torture for political prisoners and their families. The group condemned the arrests and urged the immediate release of all political detainees. The situation in Myanmar has been affecting politics of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. ASEAN decided to exclude Myanmar's senior general Min Aung Hlaing from its summit next week. This is unprecedented in the history of ASEAN. Malaysia's foreign minister said on Thursday, ASEAN should rethink its non-interference policy.
We should also recognize the concerns of the other 9 member states. And I also stated the fact that we cannot use the principle of non-interference as a shield to avoid issues being addressed.
Now, the outgoing UN Special Envoy on Myanmar told the General Assembly the situation is deteriorating. She warned the chance to return to democracy is narrowing. She said it's important governments and the UN do not signal any acceptance of the junta. Pakistan's foreign minister has held talks with Taliban leaders in Kabul. This is his first trip to Afghanistan since the Taliban took power in August. Shah Mahmood Qureshi met Thursday with acting foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi and acting prime minister Mullah Hassan Akund. Qureshi said Pakistan will provide about $280 million in aid to help Afghanistan avoid an economic collapse. He added Pakistan will also ease some border restrictions and facilitate trade. This will include providing on-arrival visas for Afghan business travelers, as well as allowing Afghan traders to import fruits and vegetables duty-free. The visit comes as the interim government tightens security against possible attacks by insurgents emboldened since the Taliban's takeover. Last week, a large explosion ripped through a crowded Shiite mosque in the southern city of Kandahar. It followed a suicide bombing on October 8th on another Shiite mosque in the northern city of Kunduz. The Islamic State militant group has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which left about 80 people dead. The Taliban-led government is on high alert as people gather at mosques for Friday prayers. Next in weather, people in the greater Tokyo area are putting on extra layers as early winter-like temperatures kicked in on Friday. Our meteorologist John Thaneau has the forecast for here and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello, it was a chilly day across a good portion of Japan, especially in Tokyo, where we had rain and cold air in place. Daytime temperatures are falling through the day, and we saw temperatures around the low teens as it went through the afternoon hours. Changes are on the way. Low pressure system is now pushing toward the east. High pressure will be moving in, but we do have a northerly flow that's going to be in place at least for part of the day on Saturday. But we're still expecting a little bit more sunshine in Tokyo. Up toward the north, though, I think we're still talking about some rain and some showers, so that's going to keep things a bit on the wet side. All on the Sea of Japan side, including Fukuoka, you'll be seeing a chance for some rain coming up as you go throughout the day on Saturday. Tokyo, sunny skies, 20, and we're going to stay around that temperature as we go through the weekend and into the first part of next week. It looks like Osaka also will be warming up just a bit by the time we go into Sunday and Monday, so a little bit of a break compared to what we saw from the